Editor-in-Chief at Barutiwa News Online. Today, I'm presenting a video interview with a fascinating young activist named Violet Vasquez. She is a third-generation descendant of Mexican immigrants, and she is a sociology and political science major at City College San Francisco. Today, she will be expressing her opinions concerning poverty, homelessness, and destitution within the San Francisco Bay Area. This video interview with Violet Vasquez is an exhibit to my report, San Francisco, an island unto itself. Hello, Violet. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Very good. Okay. You're a San Francisco native, right?
Correct, third generation.
Third generation?
Mm-hmm. My grandmother was born in the city.
And your family, your ancestry originally?
It's all from Mexico.
Mexico?
Yeah, so Chicana.
All right, very good. All right, so, and you're the third generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we will say that you are a real American.
Yeah.
After 3 generations, that make you a real American. And because you're a San Francisco native, I'm pretty sure you should have pretty strong opinions concerning the poverty in this city of wealth.
Of course. It's ridiculous for us to be in a large metropolitan such as San Francisco and to have issues such as tent cities. And by tent cities, I'm saying people who live under our bridges, and I'm talking about villages, people who are human beings, who are looking to have food and to have shelter and water, to be able to bathe on a normal basis. And these people don't have that right. And yet we live in a city where a cup of coffee could go for $20, and a pair of shoes could go for about $300, and a tie could go for $50, and yet nobody could give up $1 or $2 for somebody to have a McChicken for them to eat for one day. So I mean, the issue concerning poverty here is ridiculous. It's terrifying because it's just a reminder that can happen to anybody. Because when you look at the face of poverty here, it's not just one color, it's not just one person, it's not just one generation, it's everybody. It's people who are white, black, brown, Asian, kids, women, babies, men, people who were looking to make a life, and some way down the line they ended up under a highway. And it's ridiculous because you have people who are on that highway thinking that they're a nuisance, but don't think, wow, that could be me.
Okay, Violet, you said that poverty in San Francisco doesn't affect just one particular group of people. It's diverse, which so therefore we can pretty much sum up poverty in San Francisco as having a mixed face, whereas in other parts of the country, poverty has a Pacific face. Like for instance, in the southeastern and middle eastern part of the United States, the face of poverty is black. In the northwestern region of the United States, such as Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon, those places up in that area, the face of poverty is white. Whereas here in San Francisco, California, the face of poverty is mixed. It is diverse. So, in that particular instance, how would you describe the racial interaction between people in San Francisco, from your experience?
From my experience here, diversity is something that is very embraced here. Just because we have such an extensive history of being in existence for more than 100 years. I mean, San Francisco has been here longer than the United States, if you really think about it. it was the Alonians' land, and then it was when Spanish had Mexico, it was part of that land, and then it was Mexico for a little while, and then you had the gold miners come here, the 49ers, and then you had the Japanese come here, and the Chinese, and then you had more Mexicans come here, and then when you had the wars in Latin America, you had Central Americans coming here, and post-World War II, nobody wanted to do the grimy jobs, so who came here? More black people, and before you know it, you just had this huge mix of culture. And you can't sit here and hate on your neighbor when literally the city is only 7 by 7 miles. I mean, there's only so much you can do, and if you're going to live in an environment that's full of hate, you're not going to progress. And I think that became very apparent here in the city many years ago, and today, when you go outside of the city, it's a little off, you still feel different interactions with different races or cultures or nationalities, however it is that you want to phrase that. But when you see the diversity here, I mean, yes, poverty isn't predominantly white, it's not predominantly one thing, but it is sometimes. It is black and brown people, it is young people, it is mainly women, and it is mainly people with mental disabilities. You don't see a white person being poor unless there's something wrong up here. And it's not to say that there's something wrong, it's just nobody's trying to help them. And when you see interactions with people here, it's not about the color of your skin. Sometimes it can be. I'm not going to say racism is completely gone in the city, because it's always going to be around. Right. Because, you have that ignorance everywhere in the nation. It's tolerated in many different places. But here, the main problem is the interaction between classes. And they're clashing quite a bit. You have people who are making a multi-million-dollar salary a year, and you have families that are bringing in $35,000, $40,000 a year. Now, when you have that kind of a difference between the wages of different people, one person versus a family, there has to be tension. Because it's not fair that somebody who's worked their asses off for generations, such as my family who's been here for 3 generations, who makes luckily $80,000 a year, I'll put that number out there. And then you have somebody who comes in here from out of state and they start making $1 million a year, more. And all because they created an app, or all because they just happen to be at the right time at the right place. And it's frustrating because all of a sudden a person with more money has more rights. They have more respect. They have more of everything that you don't. No matter how much your family has put their blood, sweat, and tears into this, what we call home. And so when you see the interactions, you can't help but see a lot of hatred. And it's not hatred for the color of the skin, it's hatred for the amount of money that people are making. It's hatred for the amount of disrespect that other people are getting, and the tolerance of disregard for the history that's been here for so many years. You have newcomers that come here who are making so much money and think that they can just flaunt their money around and things are okay. But they completely disregard the history that was built here. They disregard the fact that your family home is somewhere that your grandfather grew up, somewhere that your grandparents met, somewhere that your parents met, somewhere where you had your first steps, where you had your first word.
Okay, Violet, as a youth, as a productive youth who is currently attending City College San Francisco, how do you feel about the increase in the local minimum wage? How do you feel this will affect poverty locally?
Well, the minimum wage going up will help a lot of our families who have to choose between groceries and rent. It'll make it a little easier for your kid to hop on the bus to get to class, to get to the doctor's appointment. It'll make it easier for families to buy food, to have clean water, to pay for a car repair, to invest in your future and the present, to invest in having a better way of life. Because right now, the fact that everything is skyrocketing and our wages are staying stagnant isn't helping anybody. And when you have immigrant families who come here with quote-unquote no education because it's not valid here in this nation, they have to work minimum wage jobs. They don't, even if they were a lawyer, let's say in El Salvador or Nicaragua, they can't be a lawyer here. They can't be a doctor here. They can't be a nurse here. So they come here and they work bullshit jobs like McDonald's and Burger King and bussing your tables and taking your orders and cleaning your houses and watching your kids. You know, if minimum wage goes up, their way of life gets a little better. Now, when addressing the issue of poverty, like real poverty, where you have nothing, you don't even have a job, it's not going to have much of an effect on you. Okay, yeah, you might get an extra couple of dollars handed to you. You know, you might get a couple people saying, oh, okay, I just got, my wage just went up a couple of dollars. Here's another one for you. You know, just because I could afford it today. Because yesterday I couldn't because minimum went down, right? But that's only charity.
Right.
And charity isn't the answer. Charity has never been the answer. You know, there's always that saying, you give a person a fish, they eat for a day. You teach them how to fish and they eat forever. Now, yeah, we're getting better wages, but we're not getting a better way of life. You know, that's something that we have to do ourselves.
So charity is more of a pacifier.
Yes.
Okay.
Charity, I mean, that's the thing you learn, it's common knowledge here in the city, is that charity is not the answer to anything. It's something just to feed somebody for a day, and it honestly, it just makes people feel good. It just makes people feel like they're doing something good, that they're helping humanity, that some way, shape, or form they're not a worst human being in the world because they just blew hundreds of dollars on alcohol, you know. And I'm not trying to demonize people who spend their money however they want. You can spend your money however you want as long as you earn it. I ain't tripping. But if you think that just handing somebody some money or handing them some food is going to fix all their problems, you're horribly mistaken. Because not having food and not having money, although it could have been an issue that got them where they're at, isn't what's going to fix the problem. What's going to fix the problem is giving people what they need. And that's food, water, shelter, and an education. You can't get anywhere without an education anywhere in the world, especially here in the city. If you're uneducated, you're not going to get nowhere. I'm sorry. You know, and if you're watching this and you're just like, oh, well, I don't have an education, get educated. Go to community college. They have financial aid. You go to a library, pick up a book. We're sitting in one right now. I mean, you have the internet. You know, we have technology. And here, people take it for granted. You know, and another thing people don't realize is that poverty does take you away from getting your education. Because now you have a stigma against you. It's a social stigma, meaning that if you're poor and if you're dirty and if you stink a little, we don't want you around us. And what kind of idea is that if you're a human being?
Right.
Where is that going to really get you? What is that going to do for that person? Now, if a homeless person came into my home and was like, hey, I'm tired, I'm hungry, and I need something to eat. All right, here's a banana, here's some fruit, here, let me make you a sandwich. You know, here's a blanket, you know, like, let's try to figure this out. But people need to try. You know, and there's always that thing where it's like, well, they don't want to try.
So, okay. Do you, when you encounter homeless people living on the streets, do you make a distinction between those homeless people who are productive, who are working, but they can't afford to pay high rent, compared to the homeless people who are not working and who are not trying to get work or giving up? Do you, when you encounter homeless people or people in that type of destitution or in that type of predicament, do you make a distinction on the type of person in relation to that? In relation to, you know, how productive they are, you know.
Of course. I mean, with me, if you're sitting there with a needle on your arm, I'm not going to give you $5. What the hell? I'm not going to feed that. But if you're sitting there and you're like trying to make some kind of beat on some kind of buckets, you know, because I mean, trust me, here they make the bombest beats I have ever heard on some buckets. I will give you $20. If you're sitting there trying to sing your heart out because you need something to eat, here's another $5. If you're sitting there dancing your ass off, you're doing something. You're trying to earn your wages. I'm not going to hate on you. Point. You know? But if you're sitting there and you're just expecting a handout, why the hell should I give you something? Why should I give something that I work hard for? You know, I work 25 hours a week. On top of that, I go to school full time. And on top of that, I manage my mother's property. And on top of that, I do community work. Now, any money I get, of course, is going to be necessary for my survival. But I'm down to share. But if I'm putting that much effort to make my money, somebody needs to put in some kind of effort to make some kind of money.
Okay, Violet. Very impressive. Your sentiments. You have very strong opinions. Okay, now I'm curious. KPIX is a local news channel here in San Francisco. The other day, in my hotel room, I was watching a segment where one of the local reporters was giving a story of a man who was living in North Beach. And he was a local tech guy, I believe a software engineer, and he was already paying rent at $800 a month, $1,800 a month, $1,800 a month. That was the rent he was paying to stay in North Beach. And he received a letter from his landlords stating that they are increasing the monthly rent to $8,000 a month. And this man says that it's impossible for him to pay $8,000 a month, so now he's faced with eviction after paying $1,800 a month. Now, everybody knows that San Francisco has the highest real estate in the country and has the highest cost of living in the country, higher than New York. Do you think it's ethical to risk putting people out versus the chance of attracting $1 million tenant?
No. Honestly, you're just adding on to the problem. And $8,000 in rent sounds fucking ridiculous. And I don't believe in the local news channels because shit like the Chronicle and the Examiner and like newspapers and honestly, it's just another showcase. It's just another fucking thing to watch on your TV. Honestly, if you really want to know what's going on, go pick up an actual newspaper or ask somebody in your neighborhood. But $1,800 does sound quite high for rent. Honestly, it depends if it's a flat or if it's a room. And what I noticed about the news channels here is that they tend to stretch the truth a little. Okay, maybe the landlord was raising it to $8,000 a month. Now, was it for the entire house? Was it for everybody's combined income? Was it based on something else? And we do have such thing as rent control, and we have a lot of tenants' rights here in the city. So, I mean, he will most definitely be able to fix it. I mean, to get that done. To do something to help himself. Now, even though the whole wage issue is what it is causing a lot of poverty here, I don't think criminalizing or demonizing those with more wages is the answer. It most definitely never is. I don't preach hate. It's not something that's going to get us anywhere. Now, attracting $1 million investors here, I don't want them here. Honestly, it is ridiculous. They sometimes seem subhuman. They seem like robots. And they just don't understand. And they, like I said before, they disregard what is already here. Now, if that guy wants to pay $8,000 a month, fine. You can waste your money. But that is such a waste of money because that landlord's only going to be profiting and making more money in their pocket, which is nothing wrong with making profit off of your own stuff. All right, go for it. The more money you can make, the better. Make a better life for yourself. But doing that in order to make somebody homeless, you're adding on to the issue of poverty here. Because, I mean, there is an issue that techies, or that these newcomers or these foreigners that are from, different states are not making enough money to support their living here in the city, which is the whole reason why our rent went up was because they were moving here. And now we're hearing that they don't have enough money. Maybe it's because they buy too much Starbucks or because they waste too much money on other frivolous shit and don't have enough for the rent. Who knows? It really depends on the person. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's their fault or it's our fault or whatever. But what I'm against is making more of a problem, making more poverty. Yeah, that guy's working, he's facing eviction. Go move to fucking East Bay, all right? A lot of our families did it. Okay. Go move to Stockton, go to Antioch, go to Daly City, South City, go to San Mateo. Get the fuck out of my city if you really can't afford it here because that's how we feel.
Okay, Violet. Again, as a productive youth, college-educated youth, with very strong opinions and big aspirations, what is your message to your peers, to the fellow youth here in San Francisco, California?
Youth are not the future, they're the present. We have the loudest voice, we have the largest numbers, and we have the most aspirations. We have the brightest future because we have nothing but the future to look forward to. But don't get lost thinking about what's going to happen later. Think about, what am I going to do right now? What am I going to do to help not only myself, but my family and my peers? You know, don't let money be the motivation. Let your education be your hustle. Don't let people get you down, because haters gonna hate, right? But at the end of the day, as young people, yeah, we are the future. But as soon as we turn 18, we're still youth. We're still youth till we're 24. And the Filipino side is 35, right? You have to remember to not let your anger get the best of you. Don't let hatred get the best of you. Use that and put that energy into something positive, into something beautiful, into yourself. You know, look for improvement.